Welcome to Zero Hit Points, everybody. It's January 8th. I'm Ryan Miller. Happy New Year, Matt Amberg.
Okay, it's still a little too early to tell, but we're going to say Happy New Year.
Hey, now that we're going to have this show, I think the odds are going up.
That it's going to be a Happy New Year?
No, just the odds.
Oh, okay.
Never tell me the odds.
Hey, is a Star Wars game going to be on your Fave 5? Who knows?
Is it ever? Man, this is the favorite 5 show of the year. So yeah, Happy New Year. Let's talk about last year.
You know what? That sounds good. The future is unwritten, whereas the past is clearly defined.
Or look at it this way. You've already had all your top games of the year. You've listened to all your top podcasts and everybody writing up their listicles and whatnots. Now you get us.
Yeah, we don't do listicles.
I'm so glad to. Favorite 5 games wasn't too bad. If you're coming back Thursday for our favorite 5 movies, just even pulling from the shows we watched, I'm still hurting.
Right? No, look, that's going to be it's painful for everybody involved.
Oh man.
But in the best
Thursday.
way. In the best way.
Sure. Yeah, I'll go with that. Today is going to be easier, I'll give you that, but let's do a quick rundown of how this usually goes, because this has got to be, how long have we been doing this now? This is the 4th time we've done this? 5th time?
3 or 4, yeah.
But since we don't play a ton of games every year, we're not your typical site. We are kind of outsiders, and we do this in our off time, by anyone's definition. And even less like new games. Like if I did a list of games that came out in 2018 that I played, and even by a couple stretches, I make 10, I think.
I have about 10, 12 maybe.
Yeah, okay. So, all right. Would be a pretty uninteresting list if we didn't take into account a little bit of everything. So yeah, we play fast and loose with the rules here. We'll talk about games that have probably been out for longer than a year in some way, in many different ways, in fact.
Mine are actually all pretty 2018. I actually stuck to the year. I did. I stuck to the year. I have a couple that have been out longer.
Keeping us honest.
But I actually stuck to 2018 for the most part.
Okay. I'm going to screw the hell out of that.
No. You played what you played. I played what I played, which you know what? By the way, I do know, now that you've said this, I know at least one game that's going on your list. I got it. Guaranteed. Know it. Bam.
Okay. I think there will be some surprises on both sides here. I mean, let's put it this way. In a year that included such games on my playlist as Monopoly Deal, Star Wars Battlefront 2, Micro Machines World Series,
I forgot I even
and
played
that Puzzle Fighter mobile thing. You might be surprised.
I'm super already thrilled by what you're just saying.
From here on out, basically, and I'll throw to you first because that's what I do. It was just a back and forth. I'm sure we will have some overlap, so we'll get into it a little bit, and everything will be screwed up by the end.
Sure.
As we've promised numerous times. But for now, why don't you get things started?
All right, I'll go with one I think we might both have. Because you mentioned this, and I just kind of want to reiterate where we're sitting here. These aren't necessarily the best games. They may not even be like the best game I played. It really comes down to a number of things for me. My favorite games are the games that not only are they usually a good game, but they're games that I just really, really like being involved in. There are great games, amazing games out there that one playthrough and I'm good. It was a great game. I really enjoyed it. Don't necessarily want to go back. These games that I'm talking about here, for the most part, kind of fit into that. I got one that's not, but the first one I'm gonna mention.
I mean, in the end, that's the only requirement. This is our list, right?
Yeah, it's and there's 1,000 other games out there that I didn't talk about or whatever. But
I like leading off the list with these aren't necessarily the best games, because that sounds in a lot of ways like a 0 Hit Points top 5. It's not necessarily the best games.
These are games. That's kind of our top 5. We got them. My first one, and again, no particular order here.
Yeah, that's another thing to point out. Yeah. Good one.
God of War.
God of War is on my list.
There we go. We're down to 4 already. Great. Let's move on.
Well, and we could say a lot about all of these games. We did an entire show about God of War. We're going to rehash some things and definitely make our case about why they were our favorites. But definitely go back, listen to the God of War show. I loved that discussion we had. And you talked about God of War, I want to say, a bunch, because you played it a lot more slowly than I did, whereas I kind of...
Yeah, well, you kind of had to mainline. You didn't have to, but you chose to kind of mainline stuff a little faster than I did, and I took my sweet time.
Yes.
But I think actually that's kind of an interesting point too. Is I think that for both of the ways we played it was still an incredibly rewarding experience, which there are a lot of games you can't necessarily say that about, where you can kind of go through a majority of it and it's good, or if you don't do all the side quests, it kind of falters. Maybe the side quests cause the game to falter. Hello, Assassin's Creed.
Every Assassin's Creed.
But this was a game that was so well conceptualized, so well realized. The voice acting is top tier. The world itself, the way you unfold. Gorgeous. Everything, and I've talked about this. I've said this, I don't know how many times.
3. One
of the best story drivers of all time in all video games is the character of Mimir. Mimir is such a wonderful addition, because he not only fills out the story, he gives you all sorts of interesting lore and more depth into the mythology that they're building, while also still having kind of some dotted line to the actual mythology that's involved with Freya and Baldur and all that. Super great combat. The game looked beautiful. And at the end of that whole thing, at the end of that whole game, yes, every game in the world now is set up as is getting ready for a sequel, but the way it was done here was still very almost welcome, because it became a point of, I know I'm getting to the end. I don't necessarily want to go back and replay everything or finish out all the things I missed here, but I definitely want more of the story, which I think that for me that's a huge pull. That's a huge deal for me. So, God of War, yeah, I that's a game that I think most people that played it are going to have it on their list somewhere, and it is highly recommended.
Oh yeah, that's when you see around. Some of these are going to be familiar for sure. And God of War, I like that you did mention the story, because this was the game that I held off on playing for no apparent reason, just because for the reason I've got little time and too many games, right? Like God of War, it's on my list now, but it's on the bottom. This was the game where I reached kind of a breaking point with that, where I was like, here I am, at least weekly talking about how story is my thing. Like, I love games like this. How am I not playing this game? Which hasn't worked for plenty of other games, but didn't work for this game. So I bought it almost reluctantly, because I knew I had to. This is what I do, but wasn't going to complete it by any means, right? I was going to mainline it, and because you were already talking about some of the side realms and stuff like that, and I was like, oh well, if those aren't necessary, I don't have to do any of that, and I can kind of just get through this thing. And that was my idea for the first little bit, at least, because surely I can buck every instinct I have as a game player to not 100% this thing.
Sure.
And, the world is incredible. Oh, this looks gorgeous. Oh, the story's super interesting. Oh, I can't stop. Oh, 100% of the entire thing within the course of, it was probably longer than a month, but it felt like just a hot and heavy.
It did. The way you talked about it felt like you were 2 weeks done.
I couldn't, man. And then I got caught up in like finding all the Valkyries and getting that armor. And I didn't even actually get that deep into the combat. Like, I there's no way I even scratched the surface. And I don't know if maybe I had tried to, if it would then fall apart, because maybe it does, it looks like it goes very deep. I did not partake in a lot of that. A lot of my loop was having the same 7 things backed up, and I just did those things in a row. Sure. And then by that point, I could go back and do the first super again, and just, it was still satisfying, but I'm sure if I wanted to, I could probably get deeper into that combat. But the fact that it accommodated me in that way, and it probably, at least both of us, because hearing you talk about it, I feel like you did get deeper into it, into the combat. Yeah, I got
probably not nearly as deep as it can go.
No,
but
yes,
I definitely,
right?
but I definitely I went further than, I messed around with the different moves and stuff. And I certainly had I certainly kind of had a repertoire, so to speak, that I would kind of go back to if I was in a part where I was like, I keep having to fight this guy. Okay, let me just go back to this thing and see if that works.
Right.
But I totally like, and as I played, that repertoire did grow. I was like, oh, okay, I can use that move and then this one, and those combo together in a different way than these ones. So if I do that with this guy,
I don't even think I got that far, but yeah, just the fact that it can accommodate all that, and that it's still within that provided some of the greatest moments also, like that moment where I went into Niflheim, I think, the fog one that's kind of run-based, and discovered a Valkyrie there out of nowhere, and had to because Valkyrie battles are something I had to prepare for in great measure, and to have one of those out of nowhere and succeed in it, and then have to run out of that place without dying. That was maybe the standout moment. I actually know that final battle was pretty good too, and then actually know this, and then actually know that, and then this goes on for hours. So God of War. I don't know if I have one that might also be on your list. I'll try.
All right, let's see what you got.
Burnout Paradise Remastered.
Not on my list.
No?
It totally made it. It totally made that like it was right on the cusp, though.
Okay,
it was, because we had a ton of fun with that. I had so much fun playing that with you,
dude. I 100%. I think, and this is another game for me that has a really interesting story, because when this first came out, and I know I'm kind of cheating here because it's a remaster. When this first came out on the 360 in its original format, I had loved Burnout Revenge so much that I actually actively avoided this game because I heard it was a departure. I've heard it was kind of, I think then I was in the very depths and or throes of achievement hunting, and heard that the achievements for that game took even more of a commitment. So, watch out. So yeah, I totally passed it up, and over time had been hearing so much about it, and it came out on backwards compatibility, and I downloaded it but didn't start it yet. And then I heard about the remaster, and I was like, okay, it's definitely time. And to pick it up and realize that the stuff I had avoided the game for is stuff that defined the genre from then on out. Like Forza Horizon is still, probably every Forza, but Forza Horizon is the one I've played, is still doing stuff that this game started.
Yeah,
right?
For sure.
And every game does now, like every racing game, at least. So
yeah, the biggest issue with every racing game that isn't Burnout is no crashing.
Well, yeah, and then to have that on top of it, to the point, like I did love Revenge so much, and to be that and the evolution of it, like it's such a smart game, and it holds up so well. And it's, speaking of games that came out this year, okay, it's a good remaster. Like,
for sure.
It's an excellent, like it looks gorgeous. It plays as good as anything you want to play. There's some rough things around the edges, some things that feel like design choices, like the lack of fast travel and stuff that that does show up in newer games today.
That was the one for me, man, with that game. That was the biggest complaint I always had, was the lack of fast travel.
Because if you fail a race, you're stuck at the end. Because they're all, I want to say are there any traditional races? Yeah, there were. But a lot of them were point to point. So to fail that and be at the other point and have to go all the way back and start. So yeah, one would argue, and I think we did when we did talk about this, again, go back and listen to the show. The reason I say that it might be a design choice is because that also got me to engage with that world a lot more than I probably would have otherwise, even if at the moment I wasn't super enthused about it. So there is that to it, sure. But the way it came together, it's an amazing game. In any year, I don't have any problem about putting it on my list.
No, I agree with you, man. I thought, like I said, I had a ton of fun playing this with you. The little that I played on my own was good. It had a solid, surprisingly a solid online community that was still playing it.
Yeah,
and I would say the surprise for me was the fact that we played a ton of online because you were trying to get achievements, and I was kind of tailing behind you with it. Dude, I was just really more for the...
say like achievements were a second place. Like completionism was maybe still up in there, but I was just going down the list and having fun. Like I liked the idea of getting every one of those activities finished.
Yeah, and the cool thing was that for a majority of those, we actually didn't run into a ton of people. I didn't anyways.
No.
I mean, we didn't run into a ton of people that made it difficult. Like that were goofing off. Like people were playing the game, and some people actually figured out, they're like, okay, we're going to do this because we're going to try and get achievements. So we'll pseudo boost it. But for the most part, people were kind of into it and playing the game and having fun. And,
Weird, huh?
It was really odd. I don't understand it.
You know, it's something special.
Yeah. It was good. I liked it.
All right. Well, I don't think I'm going to have any others that we're going to have in common then.
Very likely not. But
Okay.
I'll get this one out of the way because I haven't finished it yet. And I have already had way too many moments to say this was not a game. Like this is a game that I love. I love playing it.
Okay.
Is Red Dead Redemption 2.
Okay.
Yeah. There's not a ton to say about this that hasn't already been said, because this is a game that is exceptionally dense in both some of the characters and just how dense they are, but also in terms of how much content is actually in the game. It is in every respect an expansion. It's bigger, it's broader, it's got improvements in a lot of places. It still has some of that jank that Rockstar is known for, which we all kind of love.
Sure.
The online function is exactly what I expected it to be, and it for as ridiculous and silly and gun happy as people can be, it's still really fun to go around and kind of be in that environment, to be in a Western.
Sure.
That's a well-played Western. The dialogue and a number of the options in the game, I really do just love, and I'm kind of blown away by. And there is some repetition with the random pop-ups quests. You'll be going somewhere and there's somebody on the back of a horse screaming, I'm innocent. You could decide to save them or not.
I've gotten the snake bite guy a couple times already.
Right. And those moments are great because they, along with the simple, one of the simple things that is totally not simple, but conceptually, like when you see it, you're like, oh, well, why would you do that? The fact that you can literally talk and antagonize every single person in that game, that's a really, really novel and cool, fun feature for me.
I'm glad to hear you say that. And to be honest, like the fact that I have run into more than one snakebite guy, because once you can choose to give him medicine or suck out the venom. And I've heard if you give him medicine, he dies. I always suck out the venom. But then at the end of that, he's like, let's keep this between you and me, which is funny. But then after I've done this to like 3 or 4 guys, I'm like, word's going to get around. Like, they are probably going to think I like doing this, or it's one of the main things I'm known for.
That's what they call you. That's the snake sucker.
Snake sucker.
But yeah, I'm just having tons of fun with it. I really enjoy where it's going. I think it's a solid game. The biggest detriment to this game is that is not a game I can sit down and pick up and play. Like, I have to sit down and say, okay, I've got time and I am going to be here, because it's not a game where I don't get sucked in. Like, I go, okay, I'm going to do this. I'm just going to do this one mission. Nope, that's never it.
Or you get the whole picture if you don't. Yeah, no, it's
Well, and trying to just be like, okay, I'm just going to do one mission, just kind of progress stuff. It never turns out that way, because even on my way to the mission, I get sidetracked. I complete the mission, takes me somewhere else, and on something else unlocks. I go, ooh, what's that?
Right.
But I love playing it. I'm having a ton of fun with it, and that's a fave 5 for me.
Thing 6 on my list just says the question of Red Dead Redemption 2.
Mm-hmm.
Because for a long time you had more hours into it than I did. And I don't know if we ever.
Yeah, I think you caught up at one point, and I think you've exceeded at this.
Have
point.
I really? Okay, I'm that's why this is weird. I'm into chapter 3, and it's thing 6 on my list because I'm like, I still don't know if I've done enough to know. Like, sure. I know it's amazingly technically proficient. Like, I know the attention to detail is bar none. I know that detail looks amazing. The sunsets and the this and the that and the bush over there, all that.
Whoa.
I haven't done enough of the story to know, I think, really if that's going to land completely. I know that I really like what I've seen so far. It's so weird because I know I am so many hours into it. I might be more than you now at this point. I would buy that. But there's a part of me that's like, I don't know yet. I don't know if I've done enough of everything this game is.
Sure.
To put it above some of the other ones I did. I mean, I know it's going to be just from hearing people talk, from hearing you talk, from what little I have got, and also from the fact that I don't know if they could do enough to completely bork it up at this point, you know? Like this game would have to die a horrible flaming death to not make some sort of top 5 if I had finished it. But I just don't know enough yet, weirdly enough.
No, it's reasonable.
Or it's defying listing might be another part of it. Because again, maybe it's the same thing you talk about when you're like, you can't just sit down and play it. Like I can sit down and play it.
Sure.
You know, which is okay. It's getting stupid here, right? It's
no. No. Because it's a matter of you could sit down and play a game, but there's a difference between playing a game and being engaged with it.
Yeah,
you know, you play a game like Burnout. Burnout is a good example for me. Burnout's a game you could sit down, do one race, done, walk away. There's no engage. You don't have to be engaged in that.
Good example.
You know.
Yeah.
God of War actually was kind of the same way for me. That was a game where I didn't feel I needed to always be there. I was engaged in the story. I knew the story coming at me, but I was able to jump in, kind of do some stuff on the side or run through a part to get me to the next part. And I was good. I guess, and maybe God of War is kind of funny that way because It as you move forward, it's very delineated.
That's actually what I was going to say. I think we're having a discussion about linearity right now.
Sure.
And I think we actually had this discussion already, even in terms of it might have been during the Game Awards nominees where God of War came up against Red Dead quite often. And yeah, the fact that Red Dead is so open, it's an open world. It's one of the most alive open world. So yeah, that makes a lot of sense. In fact, I feel better about my decision in that to kind of judge an open world. I feel like I do need more of it. I need more of a picture of it. So yeah, I'm cool with that.
Fair enough.
Good thing it's not on my list, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah. Suck it, Red Dead. You're no good.
What about another open world game that got made completely linear and thus made my list in the process? You have no idea. And this is where it's getting a little fudgy. It's only getting fudgier from here on out. Actually, that's not true. I have one that's from 2018, hard and fast. Also on my list.
I'm gonna throw this out there.
Okay.
And if I've screwed up your list,
I'm curious what your guess would be. It's part of the fun.
I think you've got to have The Last of Us on there because you finally played it.
Yes. That was on my list. That stayed on my list for a long time. That's another number 6, in fact. Let's put it with that. But I don't know. I guess I did try and err towards more recent stuff because I feel like, especially The Last of Us has been called out so many times, and we had another entire show on that, I would say. But yeah, I mean, The Last of Us, yes, but no.
Okay. All right. Okay.
We're talking about Assassin's Creed Origins Discovery Tour.
There we go. But the point, the exclamation here. Discovery Tour,
yeah, which did come out this year. So, bonus.
Well, 2018,
I guess.
It's 2019 now. Get your stuff together.
And yes, it's not a game per se, but I mean, is Red Dead? We just had that discussion, right? Yeah, so we're doing fine. But no, what that mode leverages. So Discovery Tour, because I get the feeling a lot of people didn't dip into it. It's an educational mode that leverages all of the, not only research that team had to do for the game, but a lot of their methodology as well when it came to development. So on the one hand, you get this, you're literally going from point to point. You have 5 big categories on the left. You choose between Egypt, Alexandria, and all this other, there's 3 others. I don't know. I mostly watch my daughter go through it, and I still put it on my list. But within those sections, you then choose actual paths, and it gives you 7 stations to walk through. And as you walk through one, it focuses you in on the area of the actual game. So you're in engine, but then it also comes up with supplemental materials like a picture of what the actual region looked like, or some piece of art from it or something like that. And then, it gives you a spiel about whatever the heck. And it's fascinating. I love it. It's always been one of the things I loved most about the Assassin's Creed games too. and I enjoyed their stories and kind of their contextualization of that stuff. But to have it just laid bare and in an interactive way like this, because you are going from point to point, but the world's also built out. Like there's people making bread in a corner, and you can go as you pass them to their station and start doing that as well. And it starts showing you how they make kind of that part's a little weaker because it's just kind of general animations. It's not showing you, like, it doesn't get really like kneading bread. They're just going through typical, but it's cool. And it builds that world in a way that you're walking through that's also super fun. They could have done a very simple educational mode. They did something that had all that stuff included, and that when you got to points like the Library of Alexandria, which nobody knows what it looks like, gives you a rundown of how they came up with the design of it. They're like, we took aspects from this and that and this and that because nobody knows what it looks like because it got burned down, right? Like all this stuff, which is another interesting piece. Yeah, I'm a history nerd, so this is probably going to land with me a lot more than others. But again, super cool.
No, and I agree with you on when it comes to the AC games. One of the things that they've always done really well for me is that research and I really wish that discovery mode thing had been done earlier with like when Ezio first showed up, because
totally
my wife spent a ton of time in Italy, and she is an art history major. She's got all sorts of crazy knowledge about architecture and the actual work that was done and who the artists are and what all this stuff. She knows Italy, like she knows it very well. And when I play that, she'd be like, "Oh, can you go to the Duomo?" So I go to the Duomo, and she goes, "Okay, so if you look that way, there will be a street that goes this way, and there will be a building there." And so I turn and be like, "Okay," and she's like, "That's the building. So go down there." So go to the building. She's like, "This is the building where this and this happened." And so the fact that they were able to lay so much of Rome out, and and these parts of Florence and all that, and she was able to say, "I know where the things are based on the massive things that are there." Like, that's amazing. And to have had a discovery mode for those games in Italy would have been outstanding, because
it would have been outstanding if they did it for the next game that came out, Odyssey, but it doesn't have it. That's how much I love this mode. I would have bought Odyssey if they had continued doing this with their game. So
fair enough.
It's cool.
I dig it.
We dig things on our lists.
Yeah. Speaking of digging things, my next game,
Mr. Digger,
gonna be on a ton of other people's lists. I'm sure it was definitely in contention for Game of the Year, and I am no different. It's on my list. Spider-Man.
Okay.
This is my short explanation behind this one. I've already kind of talked about this. This game lives and dies by the movement. If the locomotion for swinging webs does not look right, feel right, work right, it's dead. They nailed it. Bottom line, period. Swinging around the city, using your webs during fighting, all of that feels right. It feels so good. Story-wise, it's a great story if you like Spider-Man comics, because that's all it is. It's just one long Spider-Man comic. You know how it's going to end, but that's not the point. The point is never how is it going to end. The point is the journey for that, and you get to experience that in the best way possible, in the best version of being Spider-Man possible. And it works. And there were some moments in that game that were just outstanding. The kind of the initial intro to kind of the Sinister Six, seeing the growth and the change of Doc Ock, getting more into you get a little bit more into the quote unquote mundane parts of Peter Parker's life as well, along with getting some more of that building that relationship with him and Mary Jane, and Miles Morales pops up. Just such a good game. It was fun. And really, at the end of the day, when you have a Spider-Man game that not only feels great, that reads like a comic, and is just plain fun, I don't know if you could do better than that, honestly. I just don't.
I agree.
Good!
In theory. And I'm glad you included that on your list, because that's one of maybe the glaring omission of 2018 for me.
But don't worry. You'll get it in 2019. You will.
Because you have finished it.
I have.
And have stamps.
I have Christmas gifts I still have to send to you by March. So
fair enough.
Yeah, so that's Spider-Man for me. Okay. What do you got? What's next?
I've got two more, and I started. So, in fact, I did this last year. If you remember, I did kind of a versus thing, and I don't know why I didn't do it consciously. That's just how it came out. Like I would go through and be like, okay, these two, like, but I can't put both of these on here. And speaking of which, for Thursday, I had to. I know we talked about this, and you were like, because we started when picking movies got hard, we started talking about criteria, and I'm like, well, we could do just one per director, and you're like, no, just put what you want. Like I don't even want to worry about all that, and you're right. But then it got hard, and I caved. So not in a caving way this time, but still had two mobile games that were kind of, I didn't feel good about putting them both on here, and one of them is, once I got to thinking about it, better than the other. But I played Hold Down and Donut County.
I was going to say Donut County I know is one that you talked about.
Yes. And
I remember Hold Down too.
Yeah, so there was kind of a versus thing going in there. And Hold Down is the perfect distillation of that game. Like if you played Balls, if you've played Breakout and all that, somebody took all that, saw that it was kind of coming back and that people were having good ideas with good mechanics, and made that into a perfectly designed and also mechanically unique game, because, and this sounds weird, but because the edges are rounded on a lot of those pieces, it actually changes how you aim. Are you looking up Hold Down right now? Did you ever get it?
I didn't. I'm looking at it right now, and I forgot that it's $3.99.
I don't think it's gone down in price. No,
it's still $3.99.
Still out of luck. But it's kind of just that, and it didn't stick with me for that long, in that when I did complete the base number of levels, it basically just turns into how deep can you go, which I'm never as invested in, especially without someone to kind of play off of.
Yeah.
So Donut County easily kind of beat Hold Down out, and I know it made a lot of people's lists, but
it did. It was big. That was a big mobile.
You heard about it a lot, right? Yeah.
Yeah, and I still don't know exactly what it is. So that's the best part.
Well, the thing is also, I wouldn't put it on my list for a lot of the reasons I heard other people putting it on their list, because they spoke a lot about the gameplay, which is good and solid, and the puzzles are fun. They're not challenging until maybe the last, and even then it's less challenging and more fun, and it's cool. But it's not the thing that impressed me the most, I guess. What did make the biggest impression was kind of what we, again, already talked about, and again, very recently, so I'm not going to get that much into it again. But the way that story is kind of poetically delivered, and it's in a poetry that is not expected. Again, I don't know if this has been adopted. I feel like I probably heard this somewhere else because it sounds too smart for me, but it's a mimetic poetry of these characters that act very seemingly non sequitur, but not really, and it's funny. And again, I'm probably overanalyzing, but it makes this impression, this kind of more than the sum of its parts thing, that by the end you're like, you're thinking about things a lot more than certainly Hold Down, which is why it beats that, but than any other mobile game that I played this year. So Donut County made my list.
Fair enough. It's funny because I actually was going to ask you if you wanted to do a one-off for your favorite 5 and then favorite mobile game. I was actually considering that.
And you should have, because knowing me, I play just an insane amount of mobile games. I've heard from you, but I don't think I've played 5 actually this year, so I don't know.
No, I did not favor. I just wanted, what was your favorite mobile game of the year? That's what I meant. Just an extra one.
Well, there you go. Show done. What are we at? Was that 5 minutes on Donut County? That's how long that show was.
Sounds good.
There you go.
I'm still playing WWE Supercard.
That make your list this year?
No, not at all. It's not even on the thing. But it's. I enjoy it. It's dumb fun.
You just want to do a show about WWE Supercard, don't you?
I just want to do a WWE. In fact, let's just do a wrestling podcast. Well,
okay, sure.
I'll bring you into it. Like we'll get you all settled in, figure out who you like, who you don't. We'll get your kids involved. It's fun. Everybody likes it.
I've already got a title for it. 0HP WWE: The Education of Ryan Miller.
I love it. I'm into it. Let's do this.
And that's
piece. For the rest of forever. Like until we stop doing that show, it's still going to be the edge.
Yeah, well, there's a chance it'll only be one show, but we'll make it work.
Okay. I got 2 more, neither of which are games you're going to probably think are going to be on my list.
Okay, I love it. These are the best ones.
I'm gonna do the one that I think is going to maybe be the biggest shocker for the end. I'm going to save it.
All right, mine's not as much of a shocker, so.
For my next one, Beat Saber. I cannot tell you how fun that game is for me. And on top of that game just being an actual joy to play in terms of as a music game, as a rhythm game, as a that kind of thing, the PC version is so great because immediately, whoever developed it, the developers were smart. They were like, yeah, we're just going to go ahead and make this really easy to work with.
Right.
People modded the crap out of it. And so now there's a really nice little mod thing. You could just open it up, and then in the game itself, it adds a little window, and you could go through all of these songs that people have added and created themselves. So there's all sorts of licensed music that is not supposed to be there.
Yep,
and yet it's still
super
really
illegal.
fun.
Yep.
Yeah, but it's the best.
It is.
But that game, like the base game, even with just the base music, is so good. It is so tightly put together. It makes so much sense. It's fun. The music is actually good. Like, I actually enjoy listening to it along with as you get better with it. Like, it is so, there's something so different to it than like Guitar Hero or Rocksmith. And it is as simple as, you're waving your hands and it seems like, cool, connected this. There is something right about Beat Saber. The sabers that you have actually feel like they feel like lightsabers to a point where you're like, man, I want to play an actual Star Wars game now.
Is that what it's trading on? Okay, I've
Absolutely
been tricked by that before.
No, but this is actually good.
Oh,
that's
okay.
the thing. Like when you touch them together, there's like, it feels right. There's like when you touch the ground where you're not doing it, it's like and it carves things in it. But it's fun. You get the decent amount of exercise with it, especially if you're actually like you're really into the songs.
Do you have video of this? I'm not sure. I need to see video of you.
Of me?
Being
No,
really into the song.
And here's the best part about this. My computer died.
Oh, I actually did read that tweet of yours about that.
Yeah, I still am so angry about it that I haven't actually tried to troubleshoot it because I am so mad.
Did Beat Saber kill it?
No, I am trying to decide what killed it. I don't know if it's a hardware issue yet or if it's software. The first thing I'm going to try is just reloading Windows, hoping that's the problem. But
This is gross. I don't like where this is going at all.
I'm noticing a couple things in the case itself, and I'm wondering if that's just because Windows has started because it doesn't need them or not. Some of my fans aren't turning on, so I don't know if there's a hardware issue.
If I had a nickel for every time I couldn't turn on a fan.
Hey, you know what?
Wing!
We do the best we can with what we were given, Lord. Yeah, so my computer where I actually have this and can play it is dead right now.
Okay.
Which is doubly frustrating after I get my VR stuff working again. Like,
That's
just
true.
get it up like last month and a half.
Went to the trouble also. That's probably what killed it, honestly, was that one controller from your Vive after you got it to work. It was
Definitely.
like, well, I got to even this out somehow. What if I kill your computer?
Yeah, no smoking
Zap.
yet or anything. It did just like, I don't know what happened to it. It definitely happened overnight because I had my computer on and then I went back up one day to, like, I know it had an update queued and I went back to it and it was just dead. And I'm like, all right, well, this sucks. So, Beat Saber!
So, Windows, game number 4 on your list. Actually, it's fine. This number 1 wasn't too much of a surprise. I knew how much you were liking Beat Saber, but also I have an analog. My, I guess, last one is Tetris Effect.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah. And possibly for many of the reasons that you mentioned Beat Saber for, the music is phenomenal. And when I talked about this the first time, I talked about a few of the miracles that this game pulls off. Mm-hmm. And most of them do have to do with the music. It is a pretty integral part to the game. But I'm a guy that plays Tetris with the music off because I'm concentrating on the game, good sir. As classic as that music is, it speeds up towards the end, and that's not helpful. But also, I own a lot of different music, and I hold nothing against a lot of different music. But I don't own any of the type of music that appears in Tetris Effect and love it still. So I'm playing the game with the music on, number 1. I'm liking game I haven't even purchased in any genre specific way. And it's making me better at the game in the process, which literally still blows my mind. It's a game that I went back to instead of Red Dead more than once.
Sure.
Because I was playing them kind of concurrently. And still am, if you think about it, even though, spoiler for, I guess, next week, I haven't touched a video game since we last recorded. That's not true. I haven't touched my Xbox since we last recorded. Yeah, I got a Switch for Christmas. But Tetris Effect comes together in a way, and there is some discussion out there about whether or not the normal version is better and or just as good as the VR version. I would agree that this is a good game, VR or not. But the other word I keep coming back to is that it's additive in the VR space. Everything it does while you're in that, with the music, because it's situational, stuff's coming at you from different angles. And again, a lot of it's VR, like a lot of VR games do this. But in the terms of Tetris Effect, it's doing it when you drop pieces. The music is different, like depending on the environment that you're in. There's one level that I've heard a lot of people hate, but it's basically freeform jazz. You're in like this downtown looking city thing, there's got to be a saxophone in it. If there isn't, you just intuit saxophones everywhere. But as you drop a piece, it does a different sound, and as you drop more pieces, it gets more chaotic. But then it starts to go to the beat, and it's I love it. I don't even care. Like, I can see it's probably just the whole jazz breakdown. Some people hate jazz, and on some level, I'm like, okay, I gotcha. But every level is like that too. So I want to go back to it. I will go back to it still, and probably instead of Red Dead sometimes. But
sure,
it definitely belongs on my list.
Tetris, can't go wrong.
Can't go wrong. And a Tetris game ended up on my list. Whoa.
That's not true. Tetris can go wrong. We love Ubisoft.com. The last game on my list.
All right.
This is going to be a mind bender.
I have no idea, do I?
I don't know. You've played it though. That's a key.
Okay. All right. Should I guess?
You played the hell out of it too.
I've played it.
In fact, we played it together. In fact, there was no other way to play this game. In fact, only one of us even had to buy the game in the first place.
It's another number 6 on my list. I know what it is now.
A Way Out.
A Way Out. I knew it. Yeah, okay. I'm not that surprised. I'm Italian.
You got a real Mario.
I'm already channeling the game. Nobody's Italian in that game.
Not at all. Well, no, that's not true. I think one of them might be.
Are they? They're European.
Well, I mean, Joseph Fares is European, but I think the one guy is like, he's supposed to be Italian. I don't know.
Actually, I think they're both American, aren't they?
Well, I mean, Italian American.
Please continue.
Jeez. Like, yes, he's not Ezio, but he's like Fredzio. He's, I don't know. A Way Out was this came out way at the beginning of the year, like in March.
Was it that early? Oh, okay.
Yeah, it was early in the year. And this was a game that was an online only game. You only had to have one person buy the game, which again was, I think, not only was that only a stroke of genius.
Wait, what?
But
only one person had to buy the game?
Yeah. To play the whole game, only one of the people had to buy the game. I never bought it.
Really? I didn't know that.
Yeah, all you had to do was download the one person had to buy it, the other person had to download the demo.
No,
if you downloaded the demo.
That is smart.
Yeah, I never bought the game.
No, I just thought you buy it. You imposter. I just thought you were over there like sitting on your just mountains of game wealth, being like, look at this game I bought, and I'm over here the sucker.
Oh, well, I guess I'll buy it too. Yeah, I mean, so that was brilliant. But the way that story and that the teamwork and the back and forth between the two characters, along with what you have to do, like that literal teamwork, that was really, really well executed. The game itself has, it's not the greatest game in the world. Okay, we're not going to say that. It's not a super long game. Some of the gunplay is a little funky, and but that wasn't the point of the game. There was a real story there and a real connection with other people that you're trying to make with this game. And it just did it so well. Like, it was shockingly good. And the dialogue has some really good stuff in it. It's got some not so great stuff in it. This is a very, like, for all intents and purposes, if you're going to do an out of 10, yeah, it probably hits about a 7. But it does other things that other games just don't, in a way that makes it, that elevates it into something greater than the sum of its parts.
For sure. Yeah. I think the premise is sound. Like, forget the story and everything else. Like the whole asynchronous nature to that multiplayer, I think was nailed.
Mm-hmm.
like the different things they had you doing in different times in different ways with different angles and different cameras and stuff like that. I think that actually turned out like that worked. It's in looking back, like, and this might have been some of what you were talking about. It's pretty funky, like, and I think keeping in mind the person of Joseph Fares actually solves a lot of this problem. This is the guy that made Brothers, which he made after, I believe, experiencing the death of one of his brothers, and is very much an experiential game in that sense, both in, I guess, translating that experience. And I don't want to spoil Brothers, but if you haven't played it, definitely play it. But it's nothing like this game, really. Like, I mean, you can see its design, and it probably had the same art director in a way, but this is a much more pulpy story that tries to hit some of those personal notes. But again, if you keep in mind the character of Joseph Fares, the guy who made Brothers, who then got up on the stage at the Game Awards that one time, this game makes a lot more sense. Like, this is him enjoying that type of stuff while still probably trying to follow up a game like Brothers.
Yeah.
And in the end, it creates a kind of a very uneven tone. But, and this is the note, because I did have words on A Way Out at the end of all my other games. I had fun with A Way Out, probably not the kind of fun they were intending at times, or maybe most of the time. But I think largely mechanically, that game does something really cool and was executed on very well.
Yeah.
So
the reason this goes on my list is because this was a game that you and I sat down, we went through together, and that was what made it. Like, we took the time, and we had a bunch of really stupid things to say about it while we were playing it.
Did we ever release those episodes?
I don't think so. No,
we recorded our whole playthrough.
Yeah, I think there was some issue with it. I don't remember what it was. In any case, we did. We recorded the whole playthrough, but
Game of the year.
It was fun. We had a good time with it, and that was a game where you and I both were very much on the same page throughout the whole game in how that game plays, how it unfolds, what we're doing. It was linear. I don't know. There's something about it. It's just like that may be a game that kind of, there are so many things that seemingly don't go right with it, and yet the few things that make it go right kind of almost erase that bad crap.
Well, we're a couple of guys that can lay that stuff by the wayside, I feel like, a lot easier than definitely the louder people on the internet. And I feel like this comes up more on Thursdays for the movie. Like, look at some of the movies we talk about on Thursday. Look at some of the fun we can have with movies that are, not good by a lot of other people's definitions. But if you sit down to do something and be like, hey, I know what this is, and this is how I'm going to have fun with it, I feel like we get to that pretty quick. And we did with A Way Out, I think, pretty easily.
Yeah, and actually I feel like that happened almost immediately. There was some line like right away, and we were like, okay, we're in.
Yeah. A Way Out.
That's
I think it's still worth playing. I would still recommend playing it. Let's put it that way.
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. Well, that's it. That's all.
That might be it.
We don't have nothing else is our favorite. Everything else is junk.
Do you have any other honorable mentions? You got mine. Those are the only other ones I was like, well, I don't really want to cut these, but I've got.
Yeah, I got one honorable mention.
Oh.
One honorable mention goes to Into the Breach.
Oh. I'm guessing you just didn't play enough of that, maybe.
Pretty much. It's a very simple concept. It's very much, one map, one tack, go to the next map, and it's a roguelite type thing, but it's mechs, and it's fun. It's real good.
It also made a lot of people's list, and I played FTL concurrently, and we had that discussion. So yeah, right. FTL was on my list for a little bit too, but that was a little too old, and maybe a little something. Yeah, okay, whatever. It's all. They're all 6s and 7s from here on out. Everybody.
That's it. It's all done.
So tune back in next week where we talk about all the 6s and 7s. There's going to be a lot of Switch stuff from me. I'll give you a heads up.
Yeah, I got some Switch stuff, and we'll talk about WWE 2K19.
What? Really?
Actual video game. Yeah,
that's the newest one, I would guess.
It is. Yeah, we'll try that. We'll talk about it.
All right. And that's next week on Zero Hit Points. The website's still there. The Twitter's still there. None of that has changed for 2019. We appreciate you because you're still here. And if you've got anything to say, you can get at us, podcast at 0hitpoints.com, and we'll bring it up. We'll talk about it.
That's right. And don't forget, Thursday, Book Club for Movies, our Fave 5 going on there. That list is a pain, and it's going to be a strangling
of myself.
Stranglehold. That's my game of the year, Stranglehold.